Representative. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here amongst all of you and to share with you some of the thoughts that I have and to share the experiences that women have had in Pakistan and what all women are doing in Pakistan. I would be speaking about the economic contribution of women in the world, since we have seen that 52%, more than 50% of the world's population is composed of women. So I've put together a small presentation which primarily emphasizes and reiterates the case for women to be active economic contributors. I'll be very briefly talking about the economic power of women, how women are contributing for the change in the world, and how they are active contributors. The world is changing rapidly. And women in the world landscape, they are changing lives, they are changing markets, environment, and culture. A Goldman Sachs report of 2007 said that closing the gap between male and female employment rates would have huge implications for the global economy, boosting US GDP by 9%, that of Eurozone by 13%, and that of Japan by 16%. Another report, which is that of UN, that around the same period said that job opportunities to women in Asia-Pacific countries would cost the region between 42 billion to 46 billion a year in the GDP growth. There is another research which says that finding the which says that the baseline genetic differences in the brain do affect a person's psychological worldview. Yesterday we had a bit of discussion about whether women and men think in a different manner. My personal view is yes, we do. And when the thinking process of both the genders are combined, it's a beautiful synergy. So we must accept it's not about competing with each other. It's working in harmony and making the best out of what we have. So it is about realizing the advantages and disadvantages and putting that together for balanced gender representation and for the greater good. And we had a lot of discussion about this yesterday as well, because we need to make this world a better place for each one of us. Now the case for why women must be encouraged, why women must be given equal opportunities. And when I say equal opportunities, I am not very much in favor of giving quotas. It has to be competence-based. It has to be, because otherwise it has to be based with adding on the premise of adding value. Because just for the sake of appearing good, we are not doing much service to ourselves. Women who can actively contribute, whether it is politics, whether it is economic arena, whether it is health, education, because you would not like to have anybody who's not able to deliver value. How many times in a hospital you would say that a certain percentage of doctors or nurses, they have to be women? The criteria is based on how well you would perform, how well you would deliver the service or the product. So, anyway, coming back to the case for women, The total population of women in the world is about 3.5 billion, almost 50% of the global population. Now, I did a slight calculation that if half of them earn $1 each, it would be $3.5 billion a day, $105 billion per month, and 1.2 trillion per year. Now, this is the size of global investment flow around the world, as stated by UNCTAD. Every country, and that holds true for my country too, that we are fighting to get investment, because what does investment yield? Investment yields economic development, it leads to employment opportunities, and eventually that disseminates into the entire economic and the social cycle, and it improves the livelihood of every person. So this is the kind of value, or this is the kind of strength that women have. Now, looking at the power of women, even if they don't work, or even if they are not, active economic contributors. As per a study, women influence 65% of the global consumer spending. In some cases, it is even more. You can maybe just take a few moments and think, when you are making a decision, whether it is to buy a car, whether it is to buy a house, do you have, as women or men can say that their wives or their partners, they have an active say in that? How many of you would agree with this? Is it true? For most of you? Yes. In case of certain countries like that of United States, the figures go even higher. The numbers are like 83% of the consumer spending is determined by where the women are coming from. A Boston Consulting Group report 2009 estimated that the global income of women will grow from $13 trillion to $18 trillion. An incremental $5 trillion is nearly twice the growth in the GDP expected from China and India combined. Now that is the kind of economic power that women drive. And everything put together, women are the biggest emerging market. We are talking about emerging markets, the BRICS, the developing countries, lots of countries in the Middle East, in Africa. Here is the emerging market. Whether we have to sell a product or a service, or whether we have to invest in them, because this whole investment is yielding good returns. So there is a very strong case to focus on that. As women have gained more economic might, they've also wielded this power differently than the men. Now there is another aspect. In case of developing countries, women reinvest 90% of their income in their families and communities, whereas men reinvest only 30 to 40% of their income. So this is a very interesting phenomena that when women are working, they are more savvy towards savings and investment with regards to men. Now, when they do that, where does that money go? That money, whether it's lying in banks, financial institutions, or somewhere, it is available for the use of the community. It is available for, if it's in the formal financial system, it is available for use of development of the country. It can be used for developing projects, whether it is health, infrastructure, communications, power, anything. So the trickle-down effect is such that so many issues are taken care of. It is my strong belief, and I believe some of you would agree with this, that a lot of problems start from economic disparity. The baseline, the root cause of a lot of global issues, whether it is issues that lead to instability of our regions and of the world, and the issues of peace, they all emerge from economic problems. So if we take care of people, if we take care of development, if people have enough job opportunities, there would be lesser issues, whether it's in different countries, whether it is around the globe. In developing countries and in poor countries, we often see it on the television also, that people are coming out on the streets protesting about different issues, whether there is shortage of power, there is some kind of health issue, they are not happy about any political decision, etc., etc. Now, to be honest, I don't go out on the street and protest, because I've got my hands full. I work, I have a job, I have so many things to look after. Now, for those who don't have all of these things with them, they are not busy doing all this. These are the people who would, obviously they are unhappy, they are frustrated. They would go out and protest on the street. Now, if you and I, we both look after these people, there will be less of all these riots, of all these protests, ultimately leading to a happy, peaceful world. So, what about women as active contributors? Women represent half the world's population, and wherever, and in many countries, we see that gender inequality exists. Now, in case of my country, Pakistan, women have had a lot of opportunities. We have been privileged to have one lady twice as Prime Minister, Benazir Bhutto, a very powerful figure. A lot of men in my country disagreed with her policies, but the lady certainly made a very strong global footprint. She added so much to the visibility of visibility not only to the women and people in Pakistan, but that of South Asia also. And successive governments in our country, they have made it easier for women to come on board. We have 33% of allocated seats for women in our parliament. That is something I personally am not too much in favor, because of the fact that the way the political structure works, and in Pakistan, it is still concentrated a lot in a way that some families, they're very active in politics and they have their constituencies, so they are participating in the politics. And when there is a certain limited quota and certain allocated seats, one cannot really ensure that all the competent women, they will be actually coming in the parliament. So there has to be a formula of competence with this. If I talk a bit about the corporate sector, because that is what I actually represent. In case of corporate sector, world over organizations realize that women must be brought on board, they must be mentored, they must be brought into higher level positions, higher level executive positions, as well as the positions in the board. globally, the board and the corporate sector doesn't really have gender equality. In some countries, like in case of France, there is kind of a forceful implementation of having gender equality, but perhaps that might also not work. There is a legislation in France that has come about which says that 50% of the board members, they have to be women, but it actually must be based on competence. The highest number of women in any company in UK, I believe, is Burberry, which has 40% of